Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Juan Paredes, I'm a senior renewable energy specialist working with the IADB. I'm going to get straight into the presentation. Who are we? The IADB Energy Division. We're the public sector side of the IADB. We do have a private sector arm, which is called IADB Invest. They do also a lot of work on energy, mainly energy generation. As you probably know, most of the countries in Latin America have a privatized power sector. So we, on the public sector side, we attend the needs of public sector utilities. But still, we have a lot of operations in most of the countries in Latin America, 26 countries. In most of them, we have an active portfolio. These are just some numbers on our portfolio, a little bit over 4 billion. That's the breakdown in terms of technologies and activities. We do a lot of distribution, transmission lines, energy efficiency, energy facilities enhancement. That's basically the digitalization of control centers. And rural electrification is one of our priorities as well. Hydropower, as you know, in Latin America, we have a very privileged situation. Almost 60% of the energy seen as a region, 60% of the energy in our power matrix is renewable. 45% more or less is hydropower. But that percentage, 60%, has been constant since 2000, more or less. So energy demand is growing, but we haven't been able to increase that share. So there is a new regional initiative. Actually, the IADB is the technical secretariat. It's called RELAC, Renewables in Latin America. It's 16 countries in the region, and the aim is to increase that percentage to 70% by 2030. It's not going to be easy, but that's a target. On the right side, you will see our gender alignment. Probably that's the case with all multilaterals right now. Gender is one of the main priorities, and we have been able to align our projects to gender aspects. Each project we finance includes a gender action plan, and of course that's for the benefit of women in our region. This is the development of our pipeline in recent years of our investments. The orange lines correspond to policy-based loans. Those are loans that's money that doesn't go into the sector, but goes into the economy or finance ministers of each region. But the disbursement of that money is attached to the fulfillment of some specific conditions to strengthen the sustainable energy plans of the country or energy laws, regulation, and so on. So we have been very active in that regard, but it's basically those policy loans support the energy transition and the setting up of the enabling environment for private sector coming in general to make those investments more bankable. And the blue segments are the typical traditional investment opportunities or investment operations with our counterparts, which are the ministers of energy in those 26 countries. This is probably very relevant for you. These are the types of technologies that we are financing or that are included in our procurement for last year, this year, and the next year. In that period, we see that on the left side, there is a lot of energy transmission, energy distribution as well. Hydroelectric power plants, of course, hydropower, as already mentioned, 45% of our electricity supply in the region. But a lot of those hydropower plants are very old, and now we are trying to rehabilitate them, refurbish all the turbines, and that's actually one of the main activities in our group right now. There is, of course, consultancy work, energy efficiency, rural electrification, digitalization, and other types of activities. And on the right side, you see the breakdown in terms of year. So for 2022, for this year, we had a lot of activity in energy efficiency, measurement equipment, and energy distribution as well. We are divided in different regions. CAN, for example, comprises the 5 countries in the Andean region and the northern part of South America: Bolivia, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Venezuela. That's actually the region where we have most of our activity. Then comes the southern cone, which is comprised by Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Paraguay, and Uruguay. In terms of impact, energy access is one of our priorities. More than 18 million people in our region have no access to electricity, and more than 80 million people have no access to modern cooking fuels. So that is actually one of the reasons why mini-grids is one of our main activities, financing of mini-grids. You will see the numbers there, although a little bit small, but in countries like Bolivia, Suriname, Nicaragua, Panama, Brazil, Ecuador, we have had in recent years a lot of mini-grids being financed. More or less a 250,000 homes have been benefited by these programs. And we're trying to do more alliances recently with private sector funds, like the GEAP, the Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet. There are some private funds behind that initiative, Rockefeller Fund, Bezos initiative, and try to leverage our funding to work on these mini-grid projects. But still, there is a large financing gap for reaching the 100% access. And in our case, in our region, is 25 billion. So we're closing that gap, but there are some countries, Haiti, Bolivia, where there is still some significant gap to be achieved. Regional integration is another topic we support in the region. There is one very successful case in Central America. It's called the CIEPAC market. It's a 1,800-kilometer line, 300 megawatts capacity that goes from Panama to Guatemala. And that has helped a lot to lower electricity prices and to size the complementarity of renewable resources in that region. There are countries like El Salvador where 25% of the electricity they consume in 1 year is imported electricity from this system. And we are trying to promote similar systems in other regions of Latin America. We have the CINEA system. It's also in the Andean region, an electricity grid from Colombia to Chile. We are actually financing the interconnection, the regional interconnection between Ecuador and Peru. It's more or less, it's a 500 kilovolt line between the two countries, and more or less 300 million operation together with the EIB as well. But this is of course important. Considering the impacts of climate change, we have seen recently a lot of droughts, extreme weather events in our region, especially the southern cone, Brazil, Paraguay, Chile have been affected by droughts. And regional interconnection is one of the solutions for mitigating those impacts. In terms of new initiatives, electric mobility is the next frontier in decarbonization in our region. There are some cities in Latin America which have implemented public electric transport in a very successful way. For example, Bogota and Santiago in Chile, Bogota in Colombia and Santiago in Chile. Those are the two cities in the world with the highest amount of electric buses outside of China. And especially the collaboration with the private sector and the business model implemented there, where there is a separation of the ownership and the operation of the assets, has been key to implement those projects in a very successful way. We set up an electric mobility group in 2017 in the IADB because it's a cross-sectoral topic. There are specialists from the energy side, transport, climate change working in this platform. We have now supported more than 20 countries, more than 70 activities regarding the enabling environment, setting up the proper regulation for the private sector to come in, feasibility studies, and other types of activities. And more recently, we have been working with the GCF, with the Green Climate Fund. And actually, our board approved yesterday this e-mobility program for sustainable cities in Latin America and the Caribbean, which is 200 million from the GCF in concessional money and 250 million from co-financing from IDB-owned funds or co-financing from countries and other donors. And basically, the idea is to accelerate the implementation of electromobility in our region. So not just public transport, we're going to be working in that program as well, financing some pilots for green hydrogen in transport applications where green hydrogen is feasible, and also vehicle-to-grid pilots, especially in the Caribbean, to improve the resiliency of the transport system and on the power system as well. And hydrogen is a hot topic right now in our region as well. Basically, 80% of the cost of 1 kilogram of hydrogen is the price of the electricity. And because of our renewable energy resources, we have achieved very competitive prices for renewable energy, between $10 and $20 per megawatt hour in countries like Chile, Peru, Argentina, Brazil. So hydrogen could be very competitive, green hydrogen in this case, and we have supported many countries with their hydrogen national strategies, especially covering the national consumption, but also for exporting purposes. In general, we try to enable the conditions for private sector participation, and we have been supporting different countries. In Colombia, we supported the government setting up this green hydrogen roadmap. Also, Colombia has been developing very successful auctions to accelerate the implementation of renewables. We supported that as well. And we have been supporting new business models for distributed generation as well. So, but in general, the intention, as many other multilaterals and the colleagues present here, is to set up that enabling framework for the private sector to come in with their investments. Other examples in Chile and Barbados are similar, but the information is there for your information. And I was asked to present some of the challenges that we face in our projects. There are many challenges, and normally those challenges are reflected in the request for proposals. We don't select specific companies because they are good mitigating a specific challenge, but because there is a typical competitive procurement process, and all those challenges should be reflected on the evaluation criteria. And then there is, as you know, a competitive process, and the companies that are able to mitigate and to deal and manage those risks in the best way are the ones that are selected. But just to mention, one of the challenges we face, especially working with mini-grids, which is one of or hybrid plants, solar and storage. Those mini-grids are done for basically improving the energy access in rural areas. Those areas, of course, are very far away from consumption centers, and the infrastructure to get there is very poor. So access roads, for example, there's one example, and these photographs are from actual projects in Bolivia and Suriname. But the weather can be very extreme in those cases. So there's one case, the upper left corner, where during 10 months in the year, the streets or the roads to reach that site are flooded because of the rain season. So what we do in terms of procurement is to time the delivery of goods with the rainy season. And of course, we have to choose the right window of opportunity. It's always a big challenge, but we have faced that similar situation in many of our other projects in Bolivia and Suriname. And of course, we have to count on the flexibility of the providers. Now with the supply chain bottlenecks, it's not an easy task because, you know, there are some delays in delivering the materials and the equipment to the site. But this has been one of the challenges, and of course, if there are delays in the project, there will be, of course, increased cost in the project implementation. But this is one of the, if there is a challenge, construction phase is one of the most critical phases of the projects that we are facing. This is in a nutshell what our activities are in the region. I'm open to any questions you might have, and I'm happy to answer those later, today or tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Thank you.